There are millions of people walking around right now with wounds that can't be seen, and most of them don't even realize what conflict they're fighting. They say trauma and abuse as if they mean the same thing, but they don't. And what about this mess? It's keeping them stuck in patterns they can't escape from. Today we're going to talk about the 9 important contrasts between trauma and abuse that will dramatically shift how you think about your personal experiences. By the end of this movie, you'll have a clear understanding that could change the course of your healing journey. Let's get right to it. The first difference is where it comes from. Abuse is something you do. Trauma is a reaction. Take a time to think about that. Trauma is what happens inside you because of what you went through, while abuse is what happens to you. Abuse originates from outside, from another person, a system, or an institution. Someone else is hurting you on purpose. Trauma, on the other hand, is how your nervous system reacts to things that are too much for it to handle. It's how your brain and body deal with things that were too much for you at the time. This is when things become interesting. Not everyone who is abused gets trauma, and not everyone who has trauma has been abused. Someone could go through a natural disaster, a medical issue, or see something horrible happen, and have trauma without anyone else being involved. On the other hand, some people go through abuse but are able to deal with it without generating long-term traumatic responses, thanks to their support systems and coping skills. A lot of folks have gotten lost on the incorrect healing route because they don't understand the difference between these two ideas. They're trying to heal trauma by merely talking about the abuse, or they are treating the symptoms of trauma without knowing what caused them. The second difference is the length of time and the chronology. Abuse usually happens over a long length of time. It starts, goes through the middle, and hopefully ends. Even one case of abuse happens throughout a certain time period. But trauma lasts longer than time. Your body doesn't realize that the danger is over. Your nervous system still thinks the threat is there. This is why someone can still feel like their abuse is happening right now, even when it happened decades ago. They say that the body keeps score, that trauma is always happening right now. It doesn't care that you're safe right now. It's still keeping you safe from the danger of yesterday. Knowing this discrepancy helps explain why healing isn't a straight line. You may know in your head that you're secure and that the abuse is finished, but your trauma response doesn't work that way. It works to stay alive. Third difference. The injury was done on purpose. This one might change all you thought you know. Abuse always means wanting to hurt, control, or take advantage of someone. The abuser is making a choice on purpose. But trauma can happen even when you don't mean to. A parent who has mental health problems that aren't being treated could put their child through terrible events without meaning to. You can still be traumatized by a medical operation that saved your life. Natural disasters, accidents, and sudden losses can all cause trauma without anybody meaning to. This difference is important because it changes how we deal with things and get better. When trauma occurs from maltreatment on purpose, there is frequently an extra element of betrayal and violation that needs to be dealt with. If trauma happens by accident, the healing process may be more about finding meaning in random events and restoring a sense of safety in a world that is always changing. The fourth difference is how control and power work. Abuse is all about having power and control. The abuser hurts someone who is weaker by using their power, strength, authority, or influence. There is always an imbalance, and abuse keeps that imbalance going, or makes it worse. But trauma is about being too much. It happens when what you're going through is too much for you to handle. There doesn't have to be a power struggle. You can be traumatized when no one is in charge. Accidents, abrupt illness, and natural disasters. But here's something that most folks don't see. Even when there is abuse, the power imbalance alone doesn't cause trauma. It's how your neurological system reacts when you feel like you have no control and are too much. Two people can go through the same abuse, yet one person might acquire trauma while the other doesn't, depending on how well they can deal with and make sense of what happened. Number 5 is the signs and symptoms. Abuse leaves marks. Sometimes there are marks on the body. Sometimes it's changes in conduct. Sometimes it's how we feel. But abuse makes certain patterns that qualified specialists can see. Trauma symptoms, on the other hand, are your body's adaptive responses that have gone wrong. Being overly alert, having flashbacks, feeling numb emotionally, and having trouble sleeping. These don't mean you're weak or hurt. They're signals that your body's defense system is still fighting to keep you safe from hazards that may not be there anymore. When you know what trauma symptoms are trying to do, they typically make perfect sense. That reaction to being startled that seems too much. Your nervous system is getting you ready for trouble. Those recollections that keep coming back. Your brain is trying to make sense of and put away an experience that was too much for you to comprehend at the time. Sixth difference: legal and social recognition. Society knows about abuse. There are laws against it, ways to report it, and most people believe that it's bad. But trauma is often not recognized or understood. People may know that someone has gone through something hard, but they don't necessarily know how it will affect their neurological system in the long run. This makes things challenging for abuse survivors, because they could gain affirmation for what occurred to them, but they have a hard time getting people to realize how it's still hurting them. People who say things like, "That was years ago," or "You should be over it by now," don't know how trauma works. The law can punish an abuser, but it can't punish trauma. No judge can tell you to cease being hypervigilant or to stop having flashbacks. This difference in acknowledgement changes everything from how we talk about these events to what tools are accessible for healing. Seventh difference: who is responsible and who is to blame. This is when things start to get pretty crucial to know. The victim is never to blame for abuse. No matter what the person who is being abused does, says, or how they react, they are not accountable for what their abuser does. You are responsible for healing from trauma, though. Anything wasn't your fault that anything happened, but you need to deal with it. You are the only one who can heal from your trauma. It's not about blaming someone, it's about giving them power. You can't change what occurred to you, but you can change what occurs next. This difference is important because it helps people go from being a victim to a survivor to a thriver. You didn't do anything wrong, but you are accountable for what you do with it now. The eighth difference is the way people get therapy and heal. Stopping abuse typically means getting help from outside sources such as the police, protective services, the law, or even physically taking someone out of a harmful environment. The goal is to change things outside of the person to make them safe. But healing trauma is mostly something that happens inside of you. It's about helping your nervous system understand that you're secure now, working through memories and feelings that are trapped, and learning new ways to deal with stress. The work happens within of you, even though connections and outside resources may help. This is why someone can be in a safe place but still have trauma symptoms. Their outside world has changed, but their inside world is still reacting to things that happened in the past. Good trauma treatment doesn't simply look at the things that happened. It also looks at how the nervous system reacts to them. Difference number 9. The long-term effects and healing. When the abusive circumstance ceases, the abuse stops. You can't be actively mistreated by someone who isn't in your life anymore, or by a system you've left. But trauma can last a long time after the threat is gone. Trauma doesn't simply make you think about horrible things that happened. It also changes how your brain works, how your body reacts, and how safe you feel in the environment. Getting over abuse could entail learning to trust again, or starting over with your life. To heal from trauma, you need to change the way your nervous system reacts automatically. But there is hope in all of this. You can get help for trauma. Your nervous system is quite good at healing and changing. You may go from just getting by to genuinely thriving with the appropriate help and methods. Knowing these differences isn't just book smarts. It's also practical knowledge that can help you heal. You can pick the best tools and resources for your circumstance once you know if you're coping with abuse, trauma, or both. Some of you who are viewing this are just now realizing that what you went through constituted abuse. Others are starting to see that the problems you're having might be a result of trauma instead than personal flaws. Both of these realizations can make a big difference in life. If you're having trauma responses, keep in mind that your symptoms made sense when they first appeared. Your nervous system was doing what it was supposed to do to keep you alive. Just because these answers might not help you now doesn't mean they were wrong at the time. No matter what anyone told you, it wasn't your fault if you were abused. Abusers are good at making their victims feel that they are to blame for what happened to them. That's one way that abuse works. It changes how you see things. Everyone's healing process is different, but knowing these differences might help you find your way. You can't fix something you don't know. You can't fix something if you don't admit it. Don't forget that asking for help doesn't mean you're weak. It's a sign that you're ready to take back control of your life. You're already on the road to healing, because you're here learning about these ideas. Whether you're seeing a therapist, attending a support group, or using self-help materials, your history doesn't have to determine your future. The things that harm you don't have to keep hurting you forever. You can heal, and you deserve to feel safe and entire. Please let me know in the comments if this video helped you comprehend what you've been through better. What was the most important thing you learned? Which of these differences made the most sense in your case? Someone else might really need to hear your tale right now. If you found this information useful, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos about mental health trauma and recovery, please subscribe. Your help lets me make more stuff that can get to folks who really need it. By the way, if you missed my last video which detailed all the symptoms of high-performing anxiety, you should watch it next. High-functioning anxiety is something that can happen after trauma or abuse, and learning about the signs of it can help you heal. Thanks for viewing. Remember that your healing path is real. Your experiences are important and you are stronger than you think.